Broadcasting from the Business RadioX studio in Alpharetta, it's time for ProfitSense with Bill McDermott.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ProfitSense, and I am delighted to have two guests, Melanie Millner with the Design Atelier. Melanie, welcome.
Thank you.
And Kasey Gartner, a wealth advisor with Northwestern Mutual. Kasey, so glad to have you.
Thanks for having us.
So, Melanie, I want to start with you. I understand that you just got back from a trip to London, and not only talking about design, but also talking about business practices. Give us a quick sense of kind of some key takeaways that you had from that trip.
Well, the trip was focused. It was held by the Design Leadership Network, which is an organization for designers, architects, landscape architects, industry professionals. And it's guided to help us with our businesses and business practices and give us inspiration for what we do.
Wonderful. So it sounds like that was a successful trip, and London wasn't quite as chilly, I bet, as it was here in Atlanta, was it?
No, it was beautiful. It's like London in the fall is definitely worth going to this time of year.
So Melanie Millner is an interior designer with the Design Atelier. The Design Atelier is a luxury interior design firm. They're committed to delivering exceptional spaces. They value architecture and the details that make each project unique. They respect their clients and strive to exceed their expectations. And I've seen some of those exceptional spaces on Instagram. They are beautiful. So congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit, things to think about, reasons to hire an interior designer. If I were designing a space, why would I hire an interior designer to do it?
Professional interior designers really do have a way of creating a global vision for a project. So we take all the information and needs, wants from the client and try to spend time with them, developing a sense of their style, how they live, how they want their spaces to function. And then we work together as a team to pull together, create a vision for them and give them a process to follow through with it so that the end result is, cohesive design.
Yeah. And so to a left brain, kind of a numbers nerd like me, there's really an art to this. So what is it that, is probably the reason for that cohesive design, and what goes into what you would call a cohesive design?
It's just a collaboration of a lot of different things. When a project starts from the ground up, we work with architects, lighting designers, everybody that's involved with the construction process, the contractors. But there's just a million decisions that need to be made along the way, even if you're just doing interior decorating for one room. But it's just, important to realize and have the experience of what it takes to obtain a good end result, because there's a lot of mistakes that could be made along the way. And when you hire a professional, it really does make a difference. And it gives you, you really do feel it when you step into a room, when you see a cohesive design.
Yeah. And so I'm sure there may be some in the audience that are just do-it-yourselfers. What really is the difference, or let me phrase that a different way. You can either do it yourself or do it right. So what does doing it right really entail?
Again, it's really putting together a whole plan before you even get started. Fleshing through all of the different options and pulling things together so that you take the time and effort on the front end, because I think a lot of times people get motivated and they want to do it themselves, and they go out and they see pretty things and then they buy them, and they may be out of scale, out of proportion for their house. So it's important when you think of things as a whole, how things work together, how the scale fits in a room, light fixtures, how they fill the volume of a space. And, to get that curated look and do it right, it's really takes somebody that knows what they're doing and understanding how things are proportioned and need to fit together.
And I know you have some architecture in your background. I'm sure doing it right also includes some understanding of architecture. Could you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yes, I think from an interior perspective, there are a lot of architectural elements that go into a good interior. Details make all the difference, whether it's a ceiling detail that's trim work that it has a design on the ceiling, or if it's molding on the wall. It's just a matter of putting together those fine details, whether, and also with tile work, cabinetry, it's going the extra mile with those details that really add to a space.
And so for someone thinking about hiring an interior designer, how much does it cost? And of course, I realize cost is really more a matter of value than it is cost. And so, but what would the cost involved, or are there some methodologies to pricing that are used in the interior design industry?
Yeah, I think that's always a big question, even in the design field. I mean, we so many different designers charge differently. So I feel like it's more about the value added and understanding the process. Most of the industry will charge an hourly rate. Some charge a flat fee, but at the end of the day, it's really understanding what the value brings to the table and being willing to pay for that, and knowing that it's going to get you a different result than just throwing together spaces.
So I want to go back to cohesive design for just a moment again. Can you maybe give an example recently of how you achieved a cohesive design for one of your clients?
Sure. We had a project a couple of years ago that the client had purchased a home that had been recently renovated, and they were wanting it to become their own. And there was a lot of things that were left from the previous owner, and she just didn't have the feeling that it was her style. So we came in and we just, talked to her, saw how her family functions, really got to know her personality. And, we worked as a team together to come up with, a living space. There was a large living area that needed to be loved because the previous owner, it just didn't really, they never spent time in there, but the new owner wanted to really focus on that room being the hub of the family. And so we created 2 seating areas, one for watching TV, one for sitting in front of the fire with friends. And we used a lot of indoor-outdoor fabrics so that it was family-friendly, dog-friendly. And at the end of the day, it all came together and with warm textures and comfortable furnishings that were, able to be used by everybody. The end result turned out to be really well done, and they love it. They can entertain. I think they had a party 2 weeks after we installed without any worry of
hey, party.
Without any worry of like people ruining the furniture. So I think that was a successful project for us.
Yeah. So you're mentioning family and function. And so I wonder, how does function and family play into an interior design or into a project?
Oh, it's everything, honestly. I think with my background, I used to do space planning.
Okay.
And did that for office spaces. And so I have a really good sense of flow. And when you have families and you have a well-functioning space, it's everything. I mean, you have to think about how you come in from the garage with kids and backpacks and groceries and where you put everything. And if you create those spaces that fit your family needs, it just makes you feel that much better when you're at home because things have a bit more organization to it.
And I would think, too, back to what we talked about just a moment ago, that doing it yourself, probably people that try to do it themselves just don't have a sense of, flow and function that's really critical. To your comment, it's everything as far as the design is concerned.
Yeah, it's more about getting the spaces right first before you fill it with a bunch of stuff. And there's a difference between designing and decorating. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people have good taste that haven't had a professional design degree. And that's great. I mean, a lot of people can pull things together beautifully. It's just more about that comprehensive vision of knowing how the spaces flow, function, and getting those right first before you start filling it up.
Sure. Also, I'm wondering lifestyle changes, people getting married, maybe people becoming empty nesters, second homes. How do lifestyle changes play into interior design?
I think right now we have a situation with a client, and they bought a house when they first got married. And now they have 2 kids, and they are understanding they need a different environment for their family. And so we're proposing, of how to make those changes happen. And, it's a big undertaking, and we can see the vision. They just have never done this before. And so they just have no clue. But again, it's like, well, I had to talk to him yesterday and say, do you realize you're going to have painters in your house for 2 months painting everything? And, you're going to have to figure out what to do with the kids. And, it's, I think at the end of the day, once we're finished, it's going to make a huge difference to their lifestyle just because they're going to have a different environment. And, how you grow up and how your living environment is kind of changes, how you are. It makes you feel differently. It gives you a different purpose when you're functioning in the house itself. So.
Yeah, I know, in our experience, so we have 2 daughters. We actually moved into our house when they were 7 and 5. Mm-hmm. They're now grown and married. So, our function of our house is totally different now that we're both empty nesters versus when we had a 7 and a 5-year-old and a puppy. Mm-hmm. The whole function and the whole design of the house I could see would certainly change over time just based on how, we've changed.
Yeah. And it's important. We had a client too that they had been living in their house with their kids, and she just never really liked the house, and they were going to move and sell the house. And then we had done a house for them up in Maine, and it turned out really well. And so they thought, well, why don't we just stay in this house and see what we can do with it? And again, we worked with them for the last year and transformed the house, and she's absolutely in love with the house now, and they didn't have to go through the troubles of moving, and they can, keep everything intact as far as their, memories there.
Yeah, that is a great story. You're an award-winning interior designer, been in this business over 26 years, have a very successful firm. Any final thoughts that you'd like to leave our audience with about interior design in general?
Well, I think it's interior design is a tough business. It's a wonderful business to be in. I love what I do, but there is so many business aspects to the design profession that can be difficult. And as creative people, we always tend to lean on people that can guide us in the right direction.
Sure.
And, be a support because, when we get into it, when I started the business 26 years ago, I just wanted to design and focus on that. And then I found myself running a business, which, then you become a business owner and have to be smart about it. So that's why I met you, and I feel like people like you out there in the world are beneficial to the creative types like me.
Yeah, well, it's one thing we all play to our strengths, and your strength is clearly design. Having a team of advisors around us to support us, to help us make those good decisions is really what's important. So just in closing here with you, Melanie, if someone needs to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
You can visit the website, www.thedesignatelier.com. Our number is on there with our email to reach out to, or you can reach out to me directly at melanie@thedesignatelier.com.
Well, Melanie, thank you so much. Great words on interior design. Congratulations on 26 years in business. And building on that topic of having a team of advisors, Kasey Gartner wealth manager with Northwestern Mutual. So glad you had time to come on the show today.
Thank you.
So Kasey, as a business professional, you understand that people often don't take the time they should to properly plan for their financial futures. You make it your goal to help busy professionals and business owners craft a plan that most effectively and efficiently allows them to reach their financial goals. And helping clients address these critical areas and be able to live lives knowing a financial plan is in place continues to be the most rewarding aspect of your practice. So let's start off by asking you, what should new business owners be thinking about that they are often not thinking about as it relates to either wealth planning, business planning, personal planning, things like that?
I think Melanie started to allude to this as well. She loved the design piece, but then found herself a business owner. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs become so by accident. They kind of fall into this space, and then they don't know what they don't know. And I'm of the mindset where people should do what they enjoy doing and do it really well and focus their time and energy on doing that and outsource the rest. So whether that be hiring a designer to help them in that space or an advisor such as myself to help them on the financial piece, or attorneys, accountants, etc., your highest and best use of time is doing what you do well. And so as a business owner, the first thing should be cobbling together that team. Oftentimes it starts with an accountant or an attorney. You made a comment earlier, Bill, about doing it yourself or doing it right. And oftentimes we find that it's much more costly to a business owner to unwind something they tried to do on their own, because there were mistakes made, because that's not what they do for a living. They are a designer, or they manufacture widgets, or whatever it is that they happen to do. They don't write up contracts. They don't set up retirement plans. They don't do business succession planning. And so having that team of advisors around them to ask them the questions that they're not thinking about, helping them paint the vision or the picture of what they want it to end up looking like on the back end will help them structure it properly on the front end.
Yeah, I can so relate to that, because having been a career banker of 32 years, then all of a sudden in the Great Recession, being laid off and then actually starting a business, I didn't know what I didn't know. And even though I had been 32 years in banking, being a banker and being a business owner are two different things. So thank goodness I had someone sit me down and said, okay, Bill, you need to be thinking about this and this and this. And all of a sudden it just made that so much easier. So let me just ask, we've talked about why a business owner should be building that team, but maybe talk a little bit about some of the components of who should be on that team and what role should they play in your view.
I think foundationally there should be an attorney, an accountant, a financial advisor, an insurance professional. And from there, that team of advisors will bring in other professionals where appropriate. Certainly a business banker should be part of that team as well. Business bankers can help them have access to a line of credit that they may not have even thought about or even know what it is when they worked for a company. Now, all of a sudden, they are the company, and there's tremendous risk and exposure as a business owner that they've never experienced before, and they're not even aware exists. So I think that core team of people, and sometimes different professionals can function in a couple different seats.
Sure.
There might be accountants that are also attorneys, or wealth advisors that are also insurance professionals. And there's no right or wrong. I think there's a tremendous amount of wonderful professionals, specifically in Atlanta. And at the end of the day, I would hope and expect that they all do great work, but people work together because it's a good match. It's a good relationship. So when I'm looking at helping build a team for my clients, it's really about personality and match. Sometimes it's geography. Mm-hmm. What we've found, though, is that geography is becoming increasingly irrelevant. I have clients all over the country, right. Many of whom I've never even met face to face, because the phone and the computer are both wonderful tools.
Sure. FaceTime and Zoom are beautiful things, aren't they? So is there a particular story that comes to mind, maybe of a business owner who didn't know what they didn't know, and maybe how you helped them get it done right from the very start, and maybe how they've moved forward from there?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is actually a little bit reverse of that, and then I'll kind of back into what you're just asking. So I was introduced to a business owner probably 5 years ago who built a very successful business, continues to be exponentially more successful today than it was when I first met him. And we became connected because he'd been investing every ounce of money and energy and time into his business, as most business owners do.
Sure.
And he got to a point where he stepped back and thought to himself, one of the people on his team of advisors, I guess, had suggested this to him. What if this doesn't all go as planned? Meaning that the business becomes hugely successful and it's able to make all of his hopes and dreams come true, right? What if I need to be investing outside of my business? So we got connected in that space for me to come in and help him think about how he needs to really build this cohesive, comprehensive plan. But his biggest asset is this business. So we wanted to leverage that strategically where somebody that might not own a business has access to that. So there were certain things that he wasn't doing or didn't know to do relative to his estate planning. This is a very profitable business. He became very wealthy because of it. And these are first world problems. I understand that.
Right. But
this was not something as a new entrepreneur starting a business was thinking that he was going to have a tremendous estate problem. So these were problems that we're looking to help him solve, again, leveraging the business where we can. And then the other side of that is somebody that is just starting out. What do they need to be thinking about? Business line of credit, business banking, business checking, different types of insurance, you buy, sell, succession planning, key person. They don't have group benefits anymore. Maybe it's just them or their spouse, or, what does it look like? All of these expenses, and they're just trying to make money, but it feels like for every dollar that they make, $3 is going out the door. And so really building out this robust plan around what's important to them so that they know that they've got a team of advisors that's got their best interest at heart and is really working as their advocate so that they can go and build this business to become really profitable. I know, Bill, I've referred many clients to you because, again, they don't know what they don't know. Their plan is to maybe one day sell their business, but they don't know what it's worth.
Right.
They think they know what it's worth, but really, is it worth what they think it is? Our babies are always so beautiful to us, but
they're incredibly beautiful.
So I know you've been very instrumental in helping business owners value their business and help them get it to a certain point where they could possibly sell it for the dollar value that they need.
Sure. Exit planning is really critical this day with the baby boomer generation getting ready to retire. I do want to take you back, though, because you made such a good point talking about that successful business owner who was pouring a lot of his wealth in his business.
Or her.
Exactly. Thank you. And building wealth that was totally concentrated in their value of their closely held business. They were very undiversified. And so I'm wondering if there are some thoughts on or some experiences that you've had helping a business owner really diversify that wealth and potentially even using income to diversify away from the value of their closely held business.
Yeah. Well, not only is it not diversified, it's not liquid.
Exactly. Yeah,
right.
Great point.
So unfortunately, in my line of work, if anybody has any familiarity with my parent company, Northwestern Mutual, it was founded in the 1800s as a life insurance company. My business is more comprehensive in scope. Not only do I do insurance planning for clients, but I also do a lot of investment planning. At the end of the day, I hate to use the word again, planning based. There's just a lot of moving parts, and my objective is to help people make sense of how those parts work well together. And so just tactically, Bill, to answer your question, oftentimes we'll see how are clients really diversifying away from their business? Does that mean investing in other businesses? Not necessarily. Again, I want them to do what they do really well, but we want to meet people where they are. How averse are they to risk? In some ways, they're tremendously risk tolerant. They're entrepreneurs, for crying out loud.
Sure.
But in other ways, they really hold every last dollar that they earn close to the chest. And so are we investing in real estate? Are we investing in retirement? Are we investing in really safe assets? So it's not a general statement. It's more of a customized solution based on how that client is wired. Because we need to be sensitive to liquidity. We need to be sensitive to taxes. I like to say it's wise to pay your taxes, but you don't have to tip the IRS. So we don't need to be paying more. So how do we leverage the tax law to our benefit? I just think a lot of times I experience a prospect or potential client in the sense that they've tried to do it themselves. And I think the biggest threat to my industry is the internet. I use this analogy. I heard it years ago. I saw a coffee mug once, and it says, "Don't confuse your Google search for my medical degree," right? It's like a patient goes and sees their doctor and says, "Well, WebMD says I have whatever it is that they've Googled their diagnosis to be." And the physician's standing there thinking, "Well, I've gone to 20 years of post-secondary education. Let me tell you, in my professional opinion, what you really have." It's very similar in my line of work, and Melanie, and yours as well, that I've built a career and invested in learning and helping clients understand what it is that they need to and should be doing. And so when people come to me, it's more around letting them know what they don't know, making them aware of things that they can and should be doing, but really customizing it to fit their needs and objectives. Because I'm not going to take tremendous risk with somebody's money if they're going to get really nervous when the market moves, as an example.
Sure. That's a great. So on that whole topic of doing it yourself, you've probably seen some mistakes that business owners make that can be easily avoided. Do one or two come to mind?
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes I'll see people that may not have been a business owner to start, and they may have their home and auto insurance, as an example, with somebody. And so just by default, they go to them, if they even think to go to them at all, and get some sort of business liability. That's not anything that I can help somebody with. Yes, I do. I am affiliated with an insurance company, but we don't do the property and casualty. And often when we're auditing that, it's not right. We come across, I use the catchphrase, a junk drawer of financial planning. It's over time, we kind of accumulate these different assets and contracts, but there's no coordinated effort. There's some things are not exactly what they need to be. Just because somebody's great at providing your personal car insurance does not make them the best solution for your business liability coverage.
Sure. Makes sense. So you've got a wealth of experience, seen a lot of situations. What would you want to tell, whether it's a business owner like Melanie with 26 years in business, or that business owner that's just starting out, or that professional that is maybe well into their career or just getting started?
I would say it's beginning with the end in mind and really thoughtfully considering what it is they want all of this effort to translate into, and working with a team of professionals to really see that through, number one. And number two, having some guidance around the plan B, C, and D. What if? Hopefully we never have to look at plans B, C, D, or E.
Sure, but you have to plan for them.
We need to plan for them. Right. What are the things that could possibly derail your goal? But first and foremost, understanding why you're doing all of this. What is the goal?
Right. I know a personal experience of mine. So when I started my business, I didn't have any disability coverage. And so it takes, as I understand it, 2 years of developing income before you're able to qualify for a disability policy. At least that's my understanding. And so that was one of those things that I was nervous about. Quickly got the disability insurance in place when I qualified. But yeah,
and that's a great example.
Yeah.
It depends. I know it depends on your profession.
Right.
So as an example, an attorney that works for a big firm, if they go and start their own practice, they don't have to have 2 years.
Yeah.
They can qualify for 80% of previous compensation.
Okay.
For a physician who's never been a doctor before because they've been in school their entire adult life, they can qualify for benefit even though they've not really been doing it. So it's a great example because it depends.
Yeah, and if I had tried to figure that out all by myself versus calling a professional like you, I would have been lost. So,
and I hope you never need that disability policy.
I hope not too. So, Kasey, it has been great having you on the show. If someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they find you?
They should call you. No. KaseyGartner.com, KaseyGartner.com, and all my contact information is there. You can also find me on LinkedIn.
Very good. Well, Kasey, thanks so much for coming on the show. Melanie, thank you for your time today. This is ProfitSense with Bill McDermott, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bill.